Recording in progress because the Barely Ballers is back. What's up? Welcome back to the Barely Ballers podcast, the show where two Kiwis dive into all things US sports, give opinions no one really agrees with. I'm Vintage Jackson of YKTR Sports. Here's Alex Craigie of Unitech Mount Albert. I don't really know what else to say about you. What's going on, Killer? How are you?
Oh, I'm all right. Been, just chilling over here, booking my tickets to Sydney, and then shit happens.
But like I said, we are Barely Ballers. We are two Kiwis that talk all things US sports. So we're going to jump straight into this bitch because we got playoff basketball going, Bubba. And before I kind of wanted, obviously, we're going to talk about each of the respective finals. It's been a minute since we've been on, so we'll give our takes on both the East and the West. But we had a bit of trouble in paradise today, so I want to start there before we kind of dive into the game reports. I want to talk about the reports circling around Damian Lillard being unhappy in Portland. We've teased at it. You've spoken about it after other off seasons when he's been bowed out. Westbrook's been linked with the Lakers. And now we hear that LeBron's taking Steph Curry out for dinner and trying to win him over. So I pose this question to you before I rip in, bro. If you're the LA Lakers right now, you're the GM sitting there with all that money. Looking at the East, the West, moving forward into next season, who are you targeting?
So this is a weird one. So obviously Steph is the best player out of all of them.
Agreed.
But if I was the GM, who I would be putting all of my time and effort into is Dame, because for me, he's the more realistic one. I don't see Steph leaving Golden State. It's always been a thing about, Steph could leave to the Lakers or even there's been not rumors, but, chit-chat about him going to the Heat or a team like that. I just don't see Steph leaving. He likes playing with Draymond. He likes playing with Clay when he's healthy. He likes Steve Kerr. He likes the culture, and they're also the team that drafted him. With Dame, this has been something that's been sort of milling around for the last couple of years, and Dame's always come out and said, he doesn't like joining super teams. He wants to win with the team that drafted him and build rather than join. But I think after this last season, he's kind of gotten to the point where it's like it can't build in Portland. It's not enough of a hot, a destination spot for these other players. It's not LA, it's not Miami, it's not New York. It's Portland. Like the last good thing to come out of Portland after Damian Lillard was Marcus Mariota, and I only mean in college, not even in the NFL. So
I'm glad you managed to jump before into this conversation.
I think that Dame is the one who I would target. Obviously, I'm a big Westbrook fan, and I don't know how much he can help a team like with LeBron and AD on it. Adding Westbrook, who's not a shooting point guard, I think a shooter would be better.
Well, I'm going to piggyback right off that back point then, because I think you nailed it towards the end of whatever you were talking about then. If I'm there, and I'm kind of going to throw a curly one at you here because I'm going to say someone not in those three because I just don't think they get either of those guys. I think you're 1,000,000% right with Steph Curry. I don't think he leaves, A, because he's missed a Golden State, but B, because I think they can legitimately push for a title where he is now if they move a few things around and maybe get something decent for Wiggins or whatever, or maybe they just hold Wiggins and hope he develops. Either way, I think he's staying at Golden State. Dame is another one where just because of how anti-super team he's been, if he moves, I can see it more as like a Brooklyn sort of move. Like I can see him going to, let's say, an Atlanta or someone like that. I'm not saying he's going to the Nets, relax. I'm saying like I can see him going somewhere and trying to build a super team. I don't see him, does that make sense? Plugging in and trying to just be another piece. But that does make sense to me as well. But I'm going to go somewhere else. If I'm the Lakers, I'm going after Bradley Beale. I do whatever it takes. I think the whole Bradley Beale in Washington thing is done. If he genuinely wants to win, or wants out rather, they'll move him because in this day and age, man, players get what they want. If they want to trade, Kawhi notwithstanding, because he demanded a trade and they sent him to fucking Canada. It obviously worked out all right. But these days, if superstars demand a trade, they more or less end up where they want to go or they do get out. I think if you're the Lakers, you touched on it, bro, in the last episode. If the Lakers are healthy this year, they go very close to coming out of the West, if not winning the whole fucking thing. They weren't healthy. They were close, but they fell short. If you plug Bradley, if you're able to package up, rather, let me start here, someone like and I'm not going to pretend to know what sort of cap situation the Lakers are in, but if you were to package up something like Kyle Kuzma, who is as good a basketball player right now as you or I, maybe a Gasol, a KCP, and some other stuff, I don't know, trade the rest of the squad if you have to, and you get Bradley Beal and you plug him in with Schroeder, AD, and LeBron, I think that's a championship winning team, even with the likes of Brooklyn hanging out there. So Dame obviously would be amazing for them. I don't think he moves there. Steph would be another super team on another level. I don't think he goes there. I think Beale, just because of his shooting, which you kind of finished on there, I think it makes more sense from a basketball standpoint, and I think it's a more realistic move.
Yeah, well, you didn't give me Bradley Beale as an option.
Yeah, it's a purely one.
If you gave me Bradley Beale as an option, then obviously I would. But I will say he's been kind of linked in the same boat as Dame. Like Bradley Beale has said he's come out and he wants to win in Washington. He doesn't want to move. But again, I think after this season, things might change a little bit. But there is one thing that I will touch on with Steph is now it probably worked out that the Nets got injured. But if the Nets were healthy this year and they won it, it would make me think that there's more likelihood of Steph moving because, and again, they got injured, they didn't want it, what happened. But if he's logically thinking about it and thinking, fuck, I don't know if me, Clay, and Draymond can actually beat KD, Harden, and Kyrie, if this is how the Nets are going to be, then maybe I do need to join a LeBron and AD or a Kawhi and Paul George, even though I think that's going to break up. But, you get what I mean? Like, and so even maybe the same with Damian Lillard. So I think there is a chance of that happening with, again, not actually with Steph, but I'd like to see that. But I do think with Damian Lillard because purely of the Nets. If the Nets didn't exist, I don't think so, but they do.
Yeah, I think that's actually probably a good point. The willingness for him to move might be more so given the landscape. So when he looks across the league, and anyone who, you don't have to be an NBA player to have a look at the Nets and go, if they're healthy, what is there in the world that can beat them? Fuck LeBron. Like LeBron is getting on. Like LeBron and AD, maybe if they're healthy, but they would need those other role players to stand up. And Kuzma can no longer play NBA. And KCP is as streaky as they come. Schroeder probably didn't live up to what everyone thought he would this year, but I think he's still a nice player. But if you were to drop Bradley Beal in there somehow, again, I'm not going to pretend to know the ins and outs of how the league works and what Washington would be looking for Bradley Beal. I would assume a fucking haul, because why else would you move Bradley Beal? But if you're a team like Washington, let's be fucking realistic. You're not winning anything, but you can push for the playoffs with Westbrook and some pieces around them. You can be marketable, you can be relevant, and you can hope to fucking nail someone in the draft coming up. Why you would hang on to a guy like Bradley Beal who has given you so much, but you're not going to do anything with him in Westbrook. If I'm Washington, I look to move Bradley Beal for as much as possible. And if I'm LA, I get that little war chest ready to go and I fucking push all my chips into the middle. So I think that's where we'll leave that one, Bubba. But let's jump into the West. Well, we're already in the West, but let's stay in the Western Conference Finals. Obviously, we've got the game tomorrow, yeah, in the West. Must be
yes.
game 5?
5, yeah.
It's going to be a pretty easy question for you here. Obviously, after yesterday's game, which is one of the first playoff games I've watched the whole way through, because what else the fuck else am I going to do in lockdown here? Good game, weird game in terms of shooting, a lot of missed threes and a low-scoring game, but still very entertaining. But I pose this question to you, man. With the scores now 3-1, do you see the Clippers, are they a chance of overcoming this deficit at all?
So if you posted that article that I sent you, or if you even had a fucking read it, you would have seen that I picked the Suns in 5.
Did you?
So,
you're like the Suns in 4 guy, but you've got an extra. You got your thumb out.
No, Suns in 5. You didn't fucking read that article that I sent you, did you? Spent time on that. No, so I picked the Suns in 5. I don't think the Clippers have a chance of coming back. So in the piece, I basically was so this was after game 2, I wrote it. And I basically said, Kawhi's not coming back for the series, but Chris Paul is coming back for the series in game 3. So I thought the Clippers could snag one. I thought Chris Paul might, take a game or two to shake off a little bit of the rust, which he kind of hasn't shaken off yet, to be honest. But they did enough to get the win. Not going to lie, there are a few bad calls that went against the Clippers that potentially could have changed the game in that game 4. But
agree.
Again, I don't see the Clippers winning this. I see the Suns closing it out at home.
Not just because I want to argue with you, but I'm going to say yes, they can do it, and it's not, to quote the great Max Kellerman, because of Ty Lue. It's because of Kawhi. So I'm aware that this is unlikely. I'm not going to just say, don't look at me like that. I'm aware this is unlikely, but the question was, can they overcome the 3-1 deficit? And I'm going to say if, and the reports suggest he might be, they're saying he's 50-50 at this stage. If Kawhi comes back for game 5, I think they can jag it. If Kawhi is performing at sort of 70 to 80% of himself, I think they can jag 2 in a row. And all of a sudden, you go in, you start to build a bit of pressure. Who knows what's going to happen? So, look, it's a coin flip this series if everyone's healthy. But I'd argue that even at 80%, Kawhi is the best player in this series, even over our favorite Big Dick Booker. I think Kawhi is the best player in this series. So I know that this is a bit of a caveat answer when I say, yes, they can come back from 3-1. If Kawhi doesn't play, they're not a fucking chance. I'm sorry, bloody Special P, Paul George, PG 13, whatever you want to call him, playoff P.
13%.
Yeah, he's not enough. So, but if the claw comes back, I think the Clippers can overcome a 3-1 deficit because I genuinely think they can win 3 in a row against this side. Unfortunately, I don't think he's going to come back. So Phoenix will win. But can they overcome a 3-1 deficit? Yes, it's just depending on Kawhi turning up. He's not the kind of guy that's going to pull an AD and go out there on one leg if he has to because he's Kawhi and he's a weird cunt like that. But I think if Kawhi's 50-50 and they throw him out there and he can just be on the floor and he gives you sort of in that 15, 16, 17-point range, Paul George goes off and maybe they get another big performance from a guy like Reggie Jackson, I think they can jag it. Kawhi's healthier the following game. You never know, man.
I just, like, if Kawhi came back and was 100%, I'd still pick the Suns. But yeah, absolutely, they could win it. But Kawhi's just not the type of guy to play at anything less than 80%. Like we saw that with that season with the Spurs where he played like 9 games and then the next season he got traded. Like, good on him. He looks after himself. He looks after his body. He's not going to jeopardize himself. You know, obviously we know what happened to Isaiah Thomas with the Celtics. He played through that hip injury and then got fucked over by them, really, and has never got a contract since.
Same next season, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if he could make it at this point. But yeah, so he looks after himself. He doesn't play when he's not even injured. He doesn't play when he's hurt. He doesn't play when he's sore. So there's no chance of Kawhi coming back. And I think like I said, I think the Suns close it out at home.
Isn't that weird? Like we celebrate like those Iron Men that sort of push through injuries and that, but here's a high level professional athlete who, if he's got a bit of a bump, doesn't play. Like that just seems so weird to me.
He's just different. Like, did you see him at the game not even sitting with his team? Like he's sitting out with the Suns. He just like is I don't know. I don't want to say like not a team guy, but he really does look like he's there to do his job sort of thing. Like
Yeah, he's the kind of guy. He won't be hanging around at 5 for work drinks on a Friday. Like he dips out. Yeah.
Nah, fuck no. Nah, God no.
I don't know. But this is a good question. Have you ever met anyone who's told you that Kawhi Leonard is their favorite player? Ever?
Kyle Lowry after winning a chip.
So that's what I mean. No one's out there rocking a Kawhi jersey, like jumping on their Instagram stories, tagging Kawhi. Like,
nah.
I don't know. He's a weird cat. Yeah. Weird, dude. But let's jump over to the East anyway, because we had the Bucks obviously got up today, so they go up 2-1, pretty convincing now in back-to-back games. Same sort of question in the West, but I do want to dive a little bit more into Atlanta at the end of this topic. But who goes on with it from here, brother, and why?
Same answer. If you had have posted my article, you would have seen that I picked the Bucks in 6. But you didn't. Hey, I'm not bitter. That's all right. I picked the Bucks in 6 for this. I think the Bucks are quite by far, if that makes sense, the better team. But the Hawks are just so good at shooting. That's why I thought they could jag too. They like what's his name? Bogdanovic shot like 2 of 13 or something like that today. Next game he'll fucking shoot 8 of 13 and they'll win it. Yeah. That's what happens with shooting teams. It's what happened with Golden State as well before KD. You know, they would get blown out some games and you'd see the stat line and Steph was 6 of 30 and Clay was 2 of 15. And then the next game they go the opposite side. So it's just what happens with 3-point shooting teams in today's league. But I think the Bucks are quite a lot better than them. Giannis is being fucking dominant, averaging well over 30 and 10. And then Chris Middleton fucking had another amazing game today. And if he can keep playing like this, I mean, I think they're going to win the chip anyway, even if Middleton plays average. But if Middleton keeps playing like this, then I think they'll kind of cruise by, really.
Yeah, sick. Well, you kind of touched on 2 points that I wanted to address off the top. Yeah, it's the Bucks for me. After LeBron and sort of KD are gone now, and we touched on Kawhi, obviously, with the big question mark over his head. I think Giannis is the best player left in these finals. I don't think it's that close. Yeah, I don't think it's that close. I think Atlanta have obviously, I don't know why I'm saying that with an accent, Atlanta have obviously overachieved. Like, I'd argue they probably overachieved when they beat the Knicks. But what I kind of want to talk about, I agree 100% with you. Like, if like on the Bucks, the key to them is obviously like rolling. Like the key to them rolling through this series and into the finals is Middleton. If he can be like he was today and be a legit number two, they'll win it all. Giannis is just too good and like he's way too good for this series. I think he's gonna be too good for the finals anyway. But onto Atlanta, because I wanted to kind of talk to you a little bit about this. Trey has obviously been so fun to watch. Like he's a legit superstar now. There's no fucking question. Even though his hairline's awful, he can shoot from fucking anywhere. They have some nice pieces around them. They're in a desirable market. And plus they kind of have that little war chest of draft picks because they've been so bad for so long. So I wanted to see kind of who becomes available. We touched on a few big free agents off the top of the sort of show, but I wanted to sort of like get your thoughts on this. Let's say someone like a Porzingis, or maybe Porzingis is a bad example, but like let's say someone like Porzingis, who knows kind of what this team could become if they were to plug in a guy, because to me they kind of feel a little bit like, let me know if I'm making sense here, they feel a little bit kind of like Brooklyn like 18 months ago when they just had Kyrie. Like they're a nice team, they shoot well, they've got some underpaid sort of Gallinaris of the world and that, but you know, Brooklyn just had Kyrie and these guys have just got Trey. I think if they're able to somehow land, Porzingis might have been a bad example, but a good all-star like that, who knows how good this team could be, man. What are your thoughts on Atlanta?
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. And just thinking about it,
I said Porzingis. I'm embarrassed I said Porzingis.
No, not Porzingis. As soon as you said Porzingis, I was like, no. No, but in all honesty, you know, you're talking about Bradley Beale before.
Yes.
And yeah, this is a thing. Just I won't say on it too much. I don't know how much the Lakers can offer. I don't know who the fuck wants Kuzma, who wants Schroeder and stuff like that. But onto the Hawks. The Hawks have a lot of good young pieces. Again, you would have to absolutely gut the team. Like you'd have to get rid of Bogdanovich, Kevin Huerter, potentially John Collins.
Gallinari.
Yeah, Gallinari's disposable. But you know, because he's a bit older as well. But you know, that good young core. So it's kind of, I guess it's up to the GM of really what he wants to do. Do you want to kind of go the Nets route? Because the Nets completely gutted their roster to get James Harden. They went really top heavy. The Hawks are a little bit deeper. So it's like, well, do you want to give away Herder, Bogdanovich, and maybe 2 future first round picks for a Bradley Beal? Personally, I would. But it's a tough one. But the Hawks have a lot of good young pieces, and I know they got Dallas's first round pick for the Doncic trade, but I don't know how many other first round picks, future ones they have, but I'm sure they have their own at least.
Yeah, I only heard something through the ESPN wires in passing that the word used was a war chest of picks. So apparently they're kind of like Philly was placed maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I think they've stockpiled something quite nice in anticipation for like a Westbrook or something that was going to be big. But now that they've sort of seen the emergence of Trae Young and how good a well-coached young team like this can be, maybe they do look for, I don't know if there's a big, when I say a big, I mean a big, that's why I said Porzingis, a big hovering around the free agency market that they could maybe have a play at. No one comes to mind immediately, but I think they're in a position now, like you couldn't be in a better position as a franchise who no one thought you were going to go this far. You've got your number one, who's clearly going to be Trae Young. If you can find a number two and then maybe Bogdanovich or one of those guys becomes your Joe Harris, Atlanta could fuck around and make a real deep run next year.
So here's the other thing with that is, again, like I was saying, so what you just touched on, what I was just saying, you would have to gut the team to get somebody, or who knows, maybe you just sign a free agent. But if you don't just sign a free agent, would you gut the team for a Bradley Beal? Because again, you know me, like I'm too much of a realist for this. The Nets are there and LeBron's still around. Do you honestly think that Bradley Beal and Trae Young are beating them? I don't, and I think that any real fan would say no, they're not either. Trae Young is young, Bogdanovich is young, all of their pieces are young. John Collins, why not just build on that for 2 to 4 years and just. Sometimes in sports, you just have to wait for the greats to go. Like you can't always win every year. You just have to fucking wait for them to leave. And at the moment, it's the Nets' turn, it's the Lakers' turn. And I see Kawhi leaving. I see him joining potentially a Miami or another super team or making another super team. So I just think you have to kind of look at them and go, yeah, we got a really great superstar in Trae Young. but unfortunately, KD's in the East, and then on the small chance we get by him, we're gonna have to go up against LeBron and AD, and that's not enough. Let's just keep our picks and build.
Yeah, the counter argument to that would be: is there a semblance of players in the universe you could take that would beat Brooklyn? I'd probably say no. So what are you doing then? You're just going to try and outlive them? Are you going to try the Nick Evans approach and just accept defeat and roll through, or?
Well, no. There isn't a set of players that can like realistically group together on the Hawks that can beat the Nets, but there is for LeBron and AD. There is for, like, if I'm the Lakers, I completely gut the team to try and get a superstar. I'm just saying if I'm the Hawks, I don't, because there's a big difference between Trae Young and Bradley Beal and AD, LeBron, and Damian Lillard, and Steph Curry, and fucking Kawhi Leonard. There's a big difference there. So for some teams, it makes sense to gut it and try to go for it now. But do you honestly think that any team other than the Clippers, the Warriors, or the Lakers adding a superstar can beat the Nets? Because those are the three teams that I'll chuck the Bucks in there actually as well.
Isn't it weird that we're still on Phoenix like that? But yeah, I agree. I agree. I don't know. I honestly don't know the answer to that question. It's a good thought experiment. If I'm Atlanta, I do it because, you know me, I'm a win now guy. If you think you've got a sniff and you can get hot at the right time of the year, go for it. But let's be fucking realistic right now. If everyone's healthy all season long, they shouldn't have beat Philly. That was a Ben Simmons weird fucking, I don't know what happened to him, got in his feelings. It's like me or you playing fucking around the world, just couldn't buy a bucket.
He saw D-Book with Kendall. That's why.
Yeah.
He must have saw a photo or something
imagine
like that.
Imagine the chat those two would have out on the court, sharing war stories and that.
Fucking hell.
Like, bro, did she ever do this with you? No. Fucking miss free throws. Anyway, all right, Bubba, I think we'll wrap it up there. We are the Barely Ballers, and we will be back a lot more consistently rolling forward, mostly because I'm in COVID and I've got no one else to talk to. But if you want to find Alex, he's going to be blogging a lot more for us at YKTR Sports if I end up publishing them for him. And hopefully he'll be back over in a week or so, back to Sydney once all these borders open up. So we're the Barely Ballers. Catch you later. Ballers, catch you later. Ballers, catch you later.